Okay, I'll use Barney, so, all right. I will call our April meeting of Central Oklahoma Transportation Parking Authority to order. I do have a couple items from the chairman, and the first is
I know that staff has gone into the control room to talk to them, so.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything we can do from here.
Okay, just try to talk a little louder then.
Suzanne, is anyone in the control room?
Okay. We've got a presentation by the Oklahoma Railroad Museum, and I guess, Blake, are you gonna do us the honor? And we had a long letter in our packet, 2-page letter, and I read every bit of it, and so I kind of know what you're gonna say, so.
That's true, that's true. No, thank you, Mr. Chairman and trustees. We started this back in 1997, and the COVID had been right on us. This is Jason, one of my surprised we saw I made a few comments to the trustees. The museum has been very successful in continued growth, and we're looking forward to another great year. You saw in your report, we ran 130 trains on your track, and as you can see on the screen up there, the museum is located. The track is on your right, that map, and it runs, that we lease from you, runs from Northeast 10th and Martin Luther King to Northeast 50th Street. So, and then, let's see, I can click down, and this is actually the museum grounds where we are located. We operated 25 non-revenue trains, and that's tree trimming and tie replacement and things. And our expenditures last year on track maintenance was down simply because we couldn't afford contractors. We did it ourselves, so we only got 100 ties put in. For old men, that's kind of hard stuff. And ladies, we have some ladies that do that too with us, and we appreciate. So anyway, it was a good year. We spent $56,919 on your track out there, maintaining it and keeping it up in working relationship. This year in our budget, we have $125,000. We have a project underway at this time. They're replacing the 36th Street crossing. It was damaged due to floods and heavy traffic. So we're in the process of replacing those panels in the street. And then we're going to resurface the rail between Grand Boulevard and through the golf course. And we'd also like to thank Jason and his staff for their assistance with the Parks Department and the Public Works Department repairing the culvert that collapsed in the golf course. So that was a very expensive repair, and we appreciate you guys doing that and helping us out. We look forward to many more years of good activity out there. We have a good planning program going on. We're excited about that. I have with me Jason, Jeremy, I'm sorry, Jeremy, come on up. I'm not nervous or anything, so. Anyway, Jeremy has joined our staff. We now have 2.5 members of our staff, and he is our developmental director and going to be working to help move the museum forward, and he's got a few things he would like to mention. Jeremy?
Just a quick word. I hope you all got your party favors.
Yes.
That's got my card in it, and then a little bit about we have a steam train out right now this week and next week, and then a special Easter train. I'm really happy to have been able to join the team at ORM. A small joke for you. I initially applied for the job of railway conductor, but I didn't have enough training. Okay, sorry. Just to remind you of the impact that we have on the community, last year we had almost 39,000 riders, and that's still with a little bit less during COVID. A lot of that comes during our November and December Polar Express train, which is a big production. So a lot of that comes out. You please come out and experience that. And we've managed that with some pretty basic facilities. So we have in our plans an expansion that will completely build out our campus. And if you,
There you go.
there we go. There it is. Well, now I messed it up. There we go. Well, anyways, the large building you see in white in the foreground is our current shop. That's really our only existing building. The white building you see up above it, that looks kind of like a barn, is our event center, which we hope to break ground on very soon as part of our expansion. That goes all the way up to a roundhouse and turntable for multiple locomotives, and a proper sort of museum facility. This expansion is going to cost somewhere between $18 and $20 million, and so it will be an important addition to the community, particularly in that part of the city. So we look forward to expanding very soon. As I said, we've got a steam train out there right now. We've got people, members of the public can actually drive the train, and then the Easter train, if any of you want to come hunt for eggs and see the Easter bunny. So thank you for your time this morning, and we hope to see you out there.
Any questions you have for us?
That is the track that runs through Lincoln Park, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I've smashed many a penny, put a penny on the trail and have the train smash it, playing golf there in high school, so.
Right. Well, I saw Mr. Pete come in, and his father worked for the Frisco, and so, but anyway, if you have no other questions, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you guys very
All right.
much in Lady.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you too. Thank you.
All right, we have one other item from the chairman. Pete and Lynn White are here, and we're going to go down and make a little presentation. Come on.
Good morning.
Morning, Pete. Nice to see you. Lynn? I did a little homework, so correct me if I'm wrong. That you first were appointed to fill a term in 1982 and first elected in 1985 and retired, no? Close, okay. And when did you retire then?
5 years ago.
5 years, okay. Well, according to my investigation, you've had the longest serving councilman of any that are on the council now. And, but I think I've beaten you. I've been on the trust here 33 years, so. So, all right.
My service at City Hall was broken up by a stint as chairman of the Democratic Party, which I'm not supposed to say that out loud anymore, but I've always been unashamed of that, so.
I allow a lot of things in these meetings that I probably shouldn't, so. All right. Why don't you read that?
Okay. All right, well, Councilman White, it's great to see you. Mrs. White, it's great to meet you. And thank you for being at our meeting. So we have something we'd like to present you with. And just so you know, this is the first lifetime bus pass we've awarded. I'll hand this to you in just a minute. It's probably not going to work in the fare box. Not the easiest bus pass to carry, but we'll fix you up.
Won't fit your bill.
All right. But nonetheless, we had to make room for a very appropriate message. So I'd like to read it. Embark thanks Pete and Lynn White for their outstanding contributions and support of public transportation in Central Oklahoma. The Whites are unwavering in their commitment to helping residents from every corner of the city. Thank you for embodying the ideal that where public transit goes, community grows. And so we could go on, but we had to fit it on the printout here, right? So, but here's what you guys, if I can share a little bit about why we're here. Besides the ongoing support of public transit, we had heard that when Mrs. White retired, one of her requests to, I think, her employer, hope I get this story right.
I'll help you.
Okay, you can help me, and maybe you should just tell this story, but nonetheless, because of Mrs. White's involvement and her employer, we ended up constructing a bus shelter along Lincoln, right around 39th and Lincoln. And I don't know, I think you guys might have some transit planning experience we don't know about, because that route, the ridership on that particular route where you selected the bus shelter to go has increased 60% this year. Now, there's other factors, but I got to say the shelter probably contributed to that.
I need a story so they can.
So we did add another bus, and we had a big grocery store open, but I'm sure the shelter was contributing to that ridership increase as well. So, so I know I've done way too much talking, but I just had to tell that story, and thank you all for all that you've done. Would you like to say some remarks?
One of the things that I appreciate so much is that there were so many people at City Hall. You and your predecessor have brought a change in public transportation in Oklahoma City that is starting to reach what my hopes for the system have always been. And I served on the council with two other people that were really heroes of public transportation, I feel like, Sam Bowman and Ed Shadid. Both were hardworking, but very committed. I mean, Ed took pictures of campaign pictures sitting on bus benches. I mean, so I feel very, very pleased with looking back on 40 years plus of public service here in Oklahoma City, that the progress that's been made in the part that she and I have had in it. Thank you so much. James, I also appreciate the fact that Ward 2 is finally, both those two guys were Ward 2 councilmen, and I appreciate the fact that you're now a council member, because I think Ward 2 may be the at least the second highest usage, if not the first highest usage of our bus system.
Thank you very much.
Well, I thought, Pete, you probably never thought you'd see the streetcar or bus rapid transit.
I was going to talk to you about the streetcar. You don't want to hear what I think about it.
Oh, okay, no.
Bus rapid transit.
Okay.
That was a great step forward, I feel like. I need one more thing. I want to introduce somebody. This is Josh Moore on the front row here. Josh is the incoming president of Acog, and my current principal activity is being general counsel to Acog, and they obviously are greatly, heavily involved in transportation, and he's the incoming chairman and is a councilman from Edmond, and he's going to do a great job, I know. Also, wait, one. It's been so long since anybody's given me a microphone to say anything, I can't put it down. But Boyd Fulton, who was extremely helpful in her bus bench. I mean, bus shelter, and I want to thank him too. And everybody, and I'm fully in support of whatever the Railroad Museum is doing, since I've been a long-time member.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So,
Well,
Thank you.
How about, can we get a picture?
Oh, sure, yeah.
where you want to take it?
Take the mics for you.
Could I get a story for the Hospital Association about what you said? They'll put it in their newsletter and send it all over.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Perfect, thank you so much.
All right. Um, Do we have any residents to be heard? I did not have any mention, so we have approval of our minutes of our March 4th COPTA board meeting and our March 29th special finance committee. Any of the trustees have any corrections or additions or deletions? Then I'd have a motion to approve the minutes of our board meeting. It's been moved and seconded.
I vote aye.
Okay. Motion passes. And then our minutes of our special COPTA Finance Committee meeting. Is it going to come up? Well,
Did we vote both of those at the same time? Okay. So now we're on consent docket.
okay. Two items on the consent docket. The trustees have any questions on either of those items? If not, I would have a motion to approve our consent docket. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, motion passes. All right. Items for individual consideration. The first item is an agreement between the City of Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust to make some changes on water lines down Classen, and I'm sure in anticipation of the BRT. Anything you need to say about that, Jason?
Yes, sir, you're right. This, this agreement is directly related to the BRT. And again, I think it's a good reminder for us of all the collaboration that's ongoing between city departments to make the BRT come to fruition. Public Works, Planning, Utilities, others, we're all working together to move this project forward. And so as part of the construction along Classen, where we're going to put the platforms, we are going to need to relocate some of the water lines. And working with utilities, they would like to, while we move those water lines, they would like to do some betterments. And so this agreement basically just spells out the fact that, you know, the relocation portion of the project will be funded as part of the BRT project. Acog is funding the engineering and the betterments, and so we wanted to memorialize that agreement or discussion through formal action between the three entities that are involved. The cost for the betterments and the engineering, you can see on the second page of your memo, is just over $19,000 and funded by Acog.
That is just the engineering, not the actual construction.
I'm not sure. Acog has agreed to pay for the engineering and the betterments. The majority of the project cost is still within the BRT.
The memorandum says engineering and construction.
Okay.
Yep.
It's not very much.
All right. Any other discussion? If not, do I hear a motion to approve? We have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Motion passes. All right, item B is a resolution amending COPTA's fiscal 2022 budget and directing the administrator to implement and administer the amendment. And the Finance Committee did meet on the 29th and had a long discussion about this and did recommend it for approval before the trust.
Yes, sir, and appreciate the Finance Committee meeting, allowing staff to present and discuss this budget amendment. You know, we've been talking about a budget amendment being presented to the trust now for several months, and so here we are presenting the budget amendment for consideration today. You can see in the memo the overall budget increase is $2.4 million, or about a 5.2% increase in our overall budget. And again, I won't go through all of the details, of course, that we went through in the Finance Committee meeting, but I would direct to the trustees, in particular to the attachment to the resolution. And you've really got 3 pages to the attachment. It's a familiar document to you. The first page is the proposed amended overall operating budget, which combines parking and transit. Of course, the only 2 portions of the budget that we're requesting an amendment for are bus operations and streetcar. So if you look at the last 2 pages of your attachment, you can see on bus, we're looking at amending that budget by $1.9 million. The majority of that is for personnel costs, higher personnel costs, resulting primarily from our wage negotiations this year. The supplies increase of $600,000 that you see is related to fuel, increased fuel costs. You know, when we spoke, might have been a month ago during the trust meeting, but our fuel costs had increased approximately 69% at that time, and they certainly haven't come down. There's no real indication that they're going to go down significantly, so we're amending the budget for that amount. And then we are reducing our services budget by $276,000 because we do have some savings in that particular expenditure category. This budget amendment is going to be supported primarily from additional CARES funds. You can see $1.1 million, some miscellaneous revenue above and beyond what we had expected in our budget of $180,000, and then a transfer from the general fund of $600,000, which is for the fuel. On the streetcar amendment, you can see we're amending the supplies by $475,000. That's related to additional streetcar parts that are needed, and that will be funded also by a transfer from the general fund. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions? Then I'd have a motion and a second to approve. Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye, or vote aye. Motion passes. All right. Item C is a resolution authorizing the application of Fiscal 2022 U.S. Department of Transportation Rebuilding American Infrastructure and Sustainability Equity Grant Program and approving the matching funds.
Yes, sir. This is an opportunity to apply for a RAISE grant. I know that term is familiar to the trust now. I think this is maybe the 2nd or 3rd RAISE grant that we've applied for. What we're requesting the trust to consider is a resolution approving the local match so that when we submit the application, we have on record that COTPA as a direct recipient and as a trust has that local match contribution basically approved. It strengthens our application when it comes time for scoring. And then as far as the gist of the grant application goes, we're concentrating on applying for a portion of the RAISE grant allocation, if you will, that's directed at planning. And the reason we're asking the trust to consider a RAISE grant for planning funds is because with projects that we've identified, particularly through the comprehensive operational analysis, like the potential multiple transfer stations, also our conceptual plan for the expansion of our maintenance facility, and then additional improvements to the transit center. If we're awarded this grant and we can invest those funds in additional planning and design and even maybe some preliminary environmental, then when additional rounds of competitive grants are announced, we are that much more competitive, we believe, in securing funds to actually complete the project. It's kind of like we have this idea and we'd like to be the federal government to consider funding it, or hey, we have this plan with cost estimates, we've done some environmental, we've designed it. It just really strengthens our case. And so if we're awarded this grant, it really helps move a lot of those projects along. So the entire project is $2.5 million. If we're successful, 2 million would be federal funds, and then 500,000 local match, which would be funded from our capital reserves.
When you apply for this, do you set out what your objectives are and what?
Yes. In fact, the grant application for like a raise or in the past a build, it's really a proposal. You know, it's a narrative. You really want to paint the picture, tell the story of your project, and it really is a proposal as much as it is a grant application.
Okay. Any questions, any of the trustees? If not, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes. Item D is a request for proposal for 22-26 cloud-based training or transit planning software over a 5-year contract, and authorize the administrator to issue and advertise.
Yeah, with the trust approval of this item, we would like to issue an RFP for this transit planning software. We have had this software available in years past. It really makes some of the what if or scenario planning for bus routes much quicker, more efficient. But where it really also has helped us in the past is with some of the requirements that were outlined in our Title VI program last month, where when we make changes to routes, we always have to evaluate them for impact to minority or low-income populations. And so the software allows us to combine a lot of different tools and data points, including census tracts and such, and it just makes that analysis very efficient. So we would like to we'd like to issue this request for proposal, purchase the software, especially thinking about the comprehensive operational analysis and all of those potential route changes that are going to be coming in the future years. Is really going to help us be more efficient and in reality probably more accurate, because there'll be less manual work that we have to do. We're expecting about a $25,000 annual cost for this software.
All right. No questions. I'd have a motion to second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Motion passes. Item E is a request for proposal for parking operations and facilities management, and authorize the administrator to advertise and release the request for proposals. And I think Corey's going to brief us on this.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, request for proposal for parking management services. As you know, we've utilized private operators to manage our day-to-day functions and all of our parking assets. Republic Parking System was purchased by Reef Parking a few years ago. Republic has been working with us in one way, shape, or form since 2006. The industry has changed over the past few years. There's been a lot of consolidation, mergers, smaller companies being bought up, and we feel it's a good time to look at the industry and see what's out there. There's been a lot of development with regional companies where the talent from the larger companies has gone back to the smaller companies. And again, this time around, we'll focus in on the local management staff being presented and the quality and experience of the local staff members and their immediate report tos. Any questions?
How many are out there now that are doing this management?
There's probably a dozen regionals, about the same size that Republic was when we first entered into relationships with them. And then the landscape for the larger, there's 3 larger companies out there. And what the industry is seeing is just plain simple. The executive talent from a lot of those companies is dispersed back into smaller companies.
Okay.
You know, I'm really glad to hear that that local presence is something you all are thinking about. Just something that has worried me for 2 decades, when I was 18, I started learning more about just the last 40 years of just like mergers and acquisitions and everyone thinking that's great, and the Pac-Man gobbling up of these smaller, companies into these mega multinationals and stuff. And what ends up missing is that local touch, right? And that people interaction. Too often, sometimes I guess some of these big corporations can get it right, but I actually think it's one of the worst things that's happened to our country, hands down. And I'm not the first person to say that. So I think making sure, and I'll just say the first COPPA briefing I ever had was on parking and some of the issues we were facing there, and they weren't great. It was an audit. And so I think that local presence, that local touch, and it doesn't surprise me one bit that some of the people have all that knowledge from those bigger companies are saying, no, I want to go down where the people are and where I can actually have that impact. So anyway, you just made me, I wasn't planning on speaking on this, but once you started speaking the way you did, I was like, okay, no, we need to note that context there, so thank you.
One general comment I would make also, in just thinking about how we award these contracts moving forward, is that as we think about access, especially for smaller businesses, that it could be helpful if we break out some of these contracts into smaller bite-sized pieces. It helps some of the smaller companies kind of get a foot in the door, with some of these items as well.
All right. Any other comments? Then I'd have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes. All right. Item F is amendment to a contract for engineering services for the Northwest Bus Rapid Transit to provide surveying and right-of-way services. So, Jason, any comments on that?
I do have a few comments, and if it's okay with the trust, I'd like to back up and clarify item A on the items for individual consideration. I'd like to thank staff for providing us with an update and acknowledge Trustee Johnson's accurate observation that the cost in the memo is for engineering only. The agreement specifies that Aquit will pay the engineering and the construction, but we don't know what the construction costs are going to be yet, so only the engineering costs are referenced. So apologies for not having that clear enough in the memo.
Since I also supervise the utilities department, I knew that $19,000 would be the cheapest water line ever, ever, so.
All right.
Okay. Item F? Mm-hmm. Item F is amendment number 4 to our contract with HNTB. Your memo here has a long history of previous actions we've entered into with HNTB, but Amendment 4 specifically is $261,000, and it is for the design of the sidewalks on Northwest Expressway, the north and south sides, connecting basically Portland to, on the south side, a Clark's Barbecue, if you will, and on the north side to the grocery store. So this amendment will allow for that design. In addition, we've talked multiple times about adding additional bus platforms in the vicinity of Classen and Northwest 31st. And so this amendment will design those platforms. Also, we're expanding the platform at Blackwelder and Northwest Expressway to be a larger platform in anticipation of other bus routes serving that platform in addition to the BRT. So we're redesigning that or adding additional design. And then also some of the water line relocations that are related to the stops at Classen and 31st. So that's a summary of what's included in this amendment. And I also wanted to just kind of mention that these projects that are being added, I think are, evidence of our process that we've used through our BRT stakeholder work group and other input that the whole project team, not just us as staff, but the whole project team have been, willing to consider as we've moved through the project. The location at Blackwelder and Northwest Expressway, for example, I believe came directly from our BRT stakeholder work group. So anyway, just pleased to be able to report to the trust that we had a design, we've heard input, and so the result is modifications and hopefully a better BRT by the time we launch.
All right. Any questions? Not, then I'd have a motion and a second. All in vote, all in favor, motion passes. All right, item G is, Haley, the way I read it is that we can go into executive session or we can vote on the motion and not go into executive session. So I would ask the trustees what their preference is. Speak up or forever hold your peace.
Yeah.
It probably makes sense to have a little context conversation in executive session.
I think so too.
Okay.
You think what I could?
I think it'd be good for us to have an executive session.
Okay, then I would have a motion to move the executive session to the end of our agenda, and
So moved.
second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right.
Individual vote when you do that, I don't recall. Yeah, we'll have to do a voice vote. So, roll call.
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. All right, next item is ratification of claims and payroll. Any questions by any of the trustees on any of those items? Not, I'd have a motion to ratify. Motion passes. Our financial reports, the schedule of revenues and expenditures, budget to actual for the month ended February 28th. Any specific comments you'd like to make on those, Jason?
Yeah, I'd like to make a few. Again, I know we've talked extensively about the budget during the Finance Committee meeting, but just directing your attention to page 2 on the transportation operations. Basically, bottom line, if you look down at our operating loss or income, our revenues through February, that is, exceed our expenses by about $961,000. That's driven primarily by CARES reimbursement in excess of our budgeted amount of $852,000, and then some of that miscellaneous revenue that I had mentioned earlier that we're programming to support our budget amendment. Our expenditure categories are very similar to what we experienced last month. Our personal services continue to exceed budget. We're about 7.5% over what we had expected at this time through the fiscal year when we developed the budget. And then, of course, there you can see fuel also beginning to exceed budget at about $121,000 more than we had budgeted. So again, we expect some of those variances to be resolved with the budget amendment, but just wanted to make sure the trust was aware of those variances for budget. Also direct your attention to page 4. This is our budget to actual for our parking operations. Again, parking operations continue to be strong. Our revenues are in excess of our expenditures by about $1.5 million, and our expenses for our parking garage operations are caught up in the sense that our invoices that we receive from Republic or Reef are paid up through January as of the date of this report for February, so those are caught up. Basically puts us in a position again where our revenues are considerably higher than our expenses. I did want to just make mention to the trust, though, that as we've really seen a lot of savings on our expenditures, primarily from staffing. One is, we've just programmed less staff for some of our events and such because of the technology that we now have in the garages, but also, just like on the transit side, it's difficult to recruit employees right now. But what we do plan on doing is increasing our staffing, particularly with our events. As warmer weather gets here and events pick up, we will be increasing the presence of staff in those garages to make sure that, we provide a good customer experience, both when our customers are entering, but also, as importantly, when they're leaving the garage, particularly at the end of large events. So probably would expect some of that savings in parking operations to diminish as we get into the end of the fiscal year, but certainly plan on finishing within and probably under budget. And then finally, I'll wrap my comments up on streetcar operations. Again, directing your attention to the bottom line first, our revenues exceed our expenditures by $96,000. You can see in our expenditures, we have exceeded our proposed budget, or our adopted budget, particularly in our supplies, and that's attributable directly to those parts that I mentioned. So the budget amendment will correct that variance. On the revenues, I wanted to point out that you do see a overage on the general fund subsidy of $92,000, and that is because we were able to secure some additional general fund funding not contemplated in our original budget that we're using for security. So we enhanced the security both on the streetcar and actually on the bus system, but you can see it directly reflected here. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions by any of the trustees on the financials? All right, then I hear a motion to receive. Motion carries, thank you. Our program reports, looks like we have two: mobility management service program and then parking program, so you're up.
I was just making sure I was going before Jesse this time around instead of after. How is everyone doing today? It's been a while since I got to talk to you, so I'm very excited to be here. I'm not used to having this is the first time I've done this since the giant screen was in my face, so it's a little bit disconcerting when you're getting used to it. So, really excited about the senior transportation services. We're seeing some rebound in our ridership. All of the numbers for ridership that I'm going to give you today are the first 8 months of the year, so through the end of February 2022. We do tend to run a little bit behind on our grant counting of ridership because there's always a month-end financial close down where we have to verify everything, so sometimes we don't get the previous month in on time. I wanted to direct your attention to just the overall year-over-year comparison that you have in your board report packet. It's always difficult to try to compare the services that we have in my division to the way some of the others operate. You'll notice on this chart here that there was a monumental drop in meal site transportation because they closed the congregate meal sites. One thing we're noticing is that's one area where we're not picking back up our ridership. The seniors are still very nervous about that social interaction. They still prefer to have the food box deliveries or the frozen meal deliveries, and we still have those options for them right now. We are going to be working with Oklahoma County Senior Nutrition to see what else we can do to enhance those feelings of safety and make them feel more comfortable about going out. But you'll also notice when you look at the grocery shopping line, we're nearly back to pre-pandemic numbers. Our medical is up quite a bit as well. We're very, very thrilled that we just finished our grant application to renew for next year with the Area-Wide Aging Agency. We also received an additional award of about $87,000 from their American Rescue Plan money. We just turned the budget back in for that. Our suggestions to area-wide for using that money include piloting a grocery shopping route in Canadian County, which we currently don't have food access there. And then, of course, we are seeing huge increases in fuel costs in our subcontracted providers, and trips are getting exponentially more expensive, so we're going to use that to offset the cost of those more expensive trips in the rural areas of Canadian County. So that's our plan with that. The one thing I want to mention to you all too is with these senior services, you'll notice that our ridership goes up and down a lot. These are very weather dependent. Seniors are very weather dependent, so I always caution everybody to, comparing month over month sometimes gets a little confusing. This last February, we closed down several times because of the weather, and even if we stay open, a lot of the seniors will cancel their trips. Another thing we're using these funds with, for years, we've always done the meal sites, the shopping, and the medical. We want to be more comprehensive with our senior services, so area-wide's been really generous with us to allow us to do some things like that. For example, the program we have with OCPD on victim services to help seniors get back and forth if they have an active case with the police department. Another thing we just started was with New View, they have a Veterans Vital program to assist veterans who have recently experienced vision loss. And so we are supporting their attendance back and forth to the Vital program, as well as helping them go to their low vision appointments and their orientation and mobility appointments. So we're really excited about those opportunities to do that. Well, speaking of opportunities, Jason was gracious enough to give me the opportunity to present some ideas to City Hall for UCO students Making a Difference program. And so 2 of our projects were selected. One of them, we are working with a UCO student to develop a Shopping Buddies program. Unintended consequence of the pandemic is that our seniors with mobility issues or with vision issues can no longer secure assistance at the grocery store to help with shopping. But for pre-pandemic, there were usually enough staff members at the grocery store that they could provide someone to go around and help them shop. That's not happening anymore. Sometimes someone from our staff has to go and help them shop. So this is our solution to that, is to look at some options for hopefully getting some city employees, once we get all the details worked out, to volunteer to help shop with these. And we are also going to approach some other entities too to see if they're interested. But basically, she's designing the program for us so that we can launch it. Another student is also working with us on updating our Special Transportation Advisory Committee, kind of modernizing it, looking at transit-dependent populations, making sure that we have representation from all aspects of the city, looking at best practices from other transit agencies on how they use their advisory committee. So we're really excited to see those 2 final reports. And then the third project, because we like to be overachievers, is we are working with a capstone group from the University of Oklahoma to update our eligibility processes. So they are updating our applications. They are coming up with functional assessment checklists and interview questions and a travel training program so that we can provide travel training services. So many things are happening, and we're really excited. Once we get those reports, we of course will share them with you. So let's talk a little bit about Embarkwell. Embarkwell obviously suffered greatly during the pandemic when all of the locations closed. It is back open and serving 8 areas. We are seeing a little return in ridership, but not as much as we had hoped. Again, our target population here is seniors, and many of them are still very nervous about going out into these kind of social situations. One of the things I wanted to mention to you too is we've added support under Embarkwell for the YMCA's Exercises Wellness Program. It's a new initiative. They have it in Greenville, South Carolina, and in some other places too, if you'd like to Google that and look at it. But it's basically an all-encompassing thing to help individuals not only be healthy from a medical standpoint, but an overall quality of life standpoint. So we're really excited to help them with that. On our community development block grant programs, these are our numbers through February 28th of this year. We're working with 80 agencies. 50 of those emergency taxi rides are supporting the City Care Dental Program for the homeless to help them get deferred dental care. We are wrapping that program up and probably will not renew it unless they get another grant to support the doctor's bill side of the equation there. We are taking applications for agencies to participate in this program next fiscal year. That'll go on through the month of April. If you have anyone that inquires about this, they can email us at mobilitymanagement@okc.gov. One other thing I wanted to share with you too is this is a new referral program that we've started in my division. The Oklahoma Education and Training Alliance and MetaFund, nonprofit out of Edmond, have graciously provided us a license to the Unite Us platform. I've included the website here for you if you want to learn more information, but basically what it is a one-stop shop for referrals. There's over 250 agencies. We're one of the few transportation providers on this network, but what this enables my team to do is have access to immediate referrals so that we can help people beyond just their needs for transportation. So we can make referrals for housing or food assistance or medical care, things like that. So we're very, very excited about that. I've put the number up here. Please feel free to share it. These are for non-transportation related referrals, but we're happy to help any individual that needs to connect with other individuals. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit in detail about our Arnold Transportation Innovation Grant. As you know, this was a 4-year, $1 million joint project between Embark, the Community Transportation Association of America, and the Oklahoma Transit Association. We are pushing into year 3 of this grant. On the last check, we feel budget-wise that we have about 14 more months of funding to go. That has lasted a little longer than the 4-year grant period because of COVID. And the Arnold Foundation has graciously allowed us to push the end of the grant period back to account for the pandemic. So as you can see, our first successful reunification was in July of 2020. So far this year, we've done about 2,355 trips. So we have presented our results to Secretary Brown at the Department of Human Services, and he is completely thrilled. Of the people and the families that we've worked with, we have reunified 22% of or 22 families. We have 0 recidivism of those 22 families, meaning they do not come back in the system after they complete climb ride. When we started, Oklahoma County DHS was renewing about 35% of their families to reunification. We're at 63%. We almost doubled their success rate, and we're doing it in much less time. Our average time in the program is 16.5 months, which is a significant reduction to the average of 18 to 24 months. In April, we will be finishing up the project report over this grant, and I cannot wait for you to see it. We're very excited. We're working with Michael's team to put together a proposal to DHS to continue this program after the grant and expand it. The goal would be eventually to go statewide with the Climb Right program. And then our last, Palomar. We're really excited about the way Palomar is going. We launched this again in June of 2021. We have a dedicated driver that is embedded at Palomar. She's done about 1,000 trips so far this year. One of the great things about this partnership with Palomar is they have been very gracious with us. They have pivoted with us when we needed to pivot, since this was the first time we have ever done anything like this. And it has been a wonderful learning experience for us in many, many ways. One of the things we've got to test out with this model is the concept of commingling trips. So we have been able to use, on a limited basis, the Palomar van to move some of our Arnold Climb Ride participants and then bill those costs back to the grant. That is allowed under the FTA regulations, and it's something we really want to start exploring in greater detail for cost savings and efficiency, because if we're able to commingle people from different programs that are going to the same location, then we can do shared rides and save money. And with that, I'll take any questions.
All right.
Well, you know how I feel about you and your work, which is, I love it. Would you mind, I want to go back to the slide where you were talking about the different services you could connect people to outside of transit, the one that had like the Unite Us.
Can you make me go back? I can't get it to go. Yeah, so this is a referral platform, and I do encourage you very much to go onto their website and check it out. They do have some videos about impact that this program has. We have a monthly meeting on this, and they've actually asked me to serve on their advisory committee as we continue to implement Unite Us across Oklahoma. This is part of the governor's Front Porch Initiative, and we stepped into it immediately when we saw it as a service to our citizens here.
And so it's statewide, but we have local service providers on this list of agencies.
Yeah, and they're adding more agencies every day. The biggest part of it right now is workforce development, but they are starting to push out into the Department of Human Services programs, and eventually they will spread it the rest of the way out.
And so would I see names on this like SISU Youth and Homeless Alliance and Diversion Hub and these sorts
Yes,
of?
sir. Yes. Everything. We've actually, it's been wonderful for us because we've been able to make new contacts for hopefully exploring some future partnerships for transit too.
Is
So.
Food Bank on there?
Yes, ma'am.
What are I see housing and food here. What are you learning through your experiences doing this work are like the top request from especially seniors, but just, you know, you're talking now with the foster families, like what services are they, you mentioned workforce, but like what are we hearing?
It goes the gamut. Oftentimes it depends, like in a Palomar type program where you're working with domestic violence victims, they need wraparound services. They are walking away from their home and everything that they own when they do this and taking what they can carry in a car. And so they're going to need everything from housing to food to let's try to find you a job, let's make sure you got medical care, all of those things. With our seniors, it's more of an access issue. It's more of a transportation issue. The individuals in the senior population that don't have access to these services, most of them it's because they no longer drive or they don't have family.
That's helpful. Well, thank you for this work as always.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Have a wonderful
All right,
weekend.
thank you. And we have one other program report, our parking system report.
My report is not going to be as fun and loving as Marilyn's report.
Well, Marilyn did leave us with a warm, fuzzy feeling. Yeah.
I'll leave you with a concrete feeling. I don't know how to work this. Can you do this for me? So the Cox Parking Garage is now what we're considering a private garage, controlled access outside of events, the 75 events that will at the arena that will park cars because we have that agreement with Prairie Surf Media, and security is one of their big things. So we removed and stored the public parking signs. Onto our revenue control system. Over the past several months, we've done an update to a new version of software. I know not very glamorous and whatnot, but those get really concerning because you don't know what to expect. It was flawless. No one knew that it took place. We're almost done with the barrier replacements that were authorized months ago to replace the barriers or the gates. There's 3 that we need to do. One at Sheridan Walker Garage, we're going to have to reconfigure a few things so that it works. And then at the Century Center Garage, in the next coming weeks, we'll be pouring some curb islands so that we can relocate the card readers for the monthly customers entering and exiting the park down beneath so that when they interact with the equipment, their vehicles will be in a leveler spot versus tilted and whatnot. Took that time. We have successfully integrated Ticketmaster into our system. So if you're buying, say, for example, an event ticket through Ticketmaster for the arena, you can select a parking pass and then you'll have it digitally so that you can go in and out of the garages or facilities. We're using similar technology at the west lots for the VIPs that attend games, except we have handheld scanners that were purchased. Those were not purchased by us. They're Thunder property, as they're the ones that wanted this technology. It's fun to work with. And then the on-street parking program secured a mobile app to pay for on-street parking. A part of that deal allowed for the capabilities of them to process off-street parking passes for individual garages where the revenue goes into the appropriate bank accounts. First of a kind in the world to have such software like that. Regarding safety, wish Eugene was here today. We had several frozen events this past couple of months. Keep in mind that a parking garage is like a bridge, freezes quite soon and stays frozen a lot longer. 0 injuries, 0 equipment failures. We did have a maintenance vehicle while de-icing get a ding. But again, they were trying to de-ice and hit a little spot. We had about 7 days of de-icing and utilized more than 175,000 pounds of de-icer. Midtown lot, we will be installing those 2 parking meters next week. Somebody parked in the spot that we wanted to put them. Otherwise, it would have happened today. Again, that relationship is another first of a kind in the aspects that there's never been a municipality that has gone out and managed a private asset. There has been downtown OKCs that manage parking that have done that, but this is, again, a first of a kind. I will tell you that we had some supply chain problems as it relates to getting the 2 devices. Wasn't a high priority to have those manufactured and shipped from France. So apologize for the delays, but we'll be activating it sometime in April. I'm waiting to hear back from the ownership of the land. Any questions?
No?
Thanks.
All right, I'd have a motion to receive our program reports.
Mr. Chairman, we have a BRT update too. It's not one of our standard program reports, but
Oh, okay.
Jesse was gonna, I think, talk a little bit about the vehicles with
Okay.
BRT, so
Okay.
sorry about that.
Good morning, Chairman, trustees. I thought that was an April Fool's joke. I thought I was going to get out of it. All right, no. So we'll jump into the BRT, the rapid report real quick. I'll go quickly, maybe. Did I mess it up? All right, so this past Tuesday, we had a big milestone that we reached. We took the BRT plans, engineering and specs, bidding documents to the City Council, where they were approved to move forward. So we immediately went into the bidding process. So March 30th, we went into the bidding process. We have a mandatory pre-bid meeting scheduled for April 7th. And then we have we anticipate receiving bids around April 20th, I believe. And then we will quickly turn those around and get those to the board so we can start that process of construction. So where are we on the schedule? One more. Yep. There it is. All right. So we've started our bid process, and now we quickly move into the construction process, hopefully starting in June of this year, about a 1-year cycle, and then we will start service. So this past month, March 17th, Jason, Dennis, and I, we went to Anniston, Alabama, where we did our first article inspection of our BRT buses. So this is an opportunity for the agency to go out, take a look at the manufacturing process, and while we were there, we were also able to meet with our, I don't know why it stopped working. We also got a chance to see our electric bus. So quick little caveat here, our electric bus is, our next electric bus is currently in the framing process. There was a slight delay with the batteries. Apparently the battery manufacturer had a small fire, And so that slightly delayed the arrival of the batteries there in Anniston, Alabama, but we were able to take a look at the electric bus. So we were also able to meet with our on-site inspector with TRC, Transit Resource Center. This is just a quick list of some of the inspections that they provide while they're on site. So they are literally on site as the buses go through the process. They go through every station and they take a look at and do inspections of our buses as they're going through the line process. And this is an example of one of the weekly reports that we get from TRC every week, updating us on the processes that the buses are currently in. Do want to, if you take a look at on the right side of the screen there, just to give you an idea of some of the things they look at. So if you look at unit 2226, the very first bullet there, the unit had loose hardware. So they were literally inspecting bolts to make sure that they are meeting the specs that our specifications require. All right, so quick update on where we are in the process of the buses arriving. So bus 2220, so that's our first bus, 2220. It is essentially complete, right? So we were anticipating that the bus would arrive in Oklahoma City, but we wanted to make sure that we did a grand splash whenever it does arrive, right? So we are anticipating developing a grand reveal like we did with the streetcars. Michael and his team are working closely with city agencies and everything like that to try to make it as grand as we possibly can. Piquing your interest, right? Yeah. You have a question?
Can I go?
What's that?
Can I go?
Absolutely not.
I just,
Yes.
I felt like a child again. It's like, Dad, can I go to the zoo with you? You know.
Yeah. We'll make sure we reserve a ticket. Absolutely. Yeah. So I just want to give a quick update on some photos of where the buses are. So this is our very first bus. While we were there, we got a picture of the bus that was complete, but we didn't want to spoil the grand reveal, so we censored the first picture here. But it is complete. Jason, Dennis, and I, we got a chance to see it. We were wowed. Also the interiors, Marilyn and Corey, they keep talking about all the things that are first of its kind. I can pretty much guarantee you that our BRT buses, the interior, are going to be a first of its kind. We're excited to show it to everybody. All right, our next bus, 2221, has moved into fuel cell commissioning. A quick photo of moving forward in that area. And then the next one, 2222, has moved into electrical checks and bike rack install. I'll apologize up front that my pictures are not great, but that's on purpose because I, again, don't want to reveal too much, right? So 2223 has moved into the AC and exterior door installation. 2224 has moved into paint. This is part of our first article inspection, going out and verifying that the colors match what we provided to the manufacturer. 2225 has also moved into paint. This is a picture of it inside the paint booth there at New Flyer. 2226 has moved into instrument panels, airlines, and steering and dash. This is a floating bus. This is them doing all the undercarriage wiring and things like that with the airlines. 2227, wheelchair ramp, engine installation, and interior panels. And then the final bus here has moved into the roof, drip rail, and muffler installation. So I did want to include this picture here. So while Jason, Dennis, and I we were there, this is actually a one-piece roof, right? So they do a fiberglass mold of the entire roof and is lifted onto the frame of the bus in one piece. So it's pretty cool to see that while we were there, seeing them get that installed. That is it. I moved pretty quickly through the presentation. Be happy to take any questions.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you, Jesse.
Thank you very much.
Now we can have a motion to receive our reports. It's been moved and seconded. Motion passes. I say aye, so, all right. Any other items from any of the trustees before we go into executive session?
I just wanted to say thank you to any Embark staff who helped welcome the Congress for New Urbanism to our city last week. We had around 1,000 attendees from across the world who care about public transit, walkability, missing middle housing, connecting folk to services, like you heard Marilyn say. And I just really want to thank staff for coordinating, for instance, the streetcar tour that some of the attendees did. I know Jason and I met with some folk who were attendees who wanted to share with us some of their stuff that they do and learn from us about what we're doing. And it was just really, really cool to be at that conference, and I just really wanted to thank staff for that. And then, as I said at council on Tuesday, I wanted to just publicly thank Jason and Jesse for hearing me and some of the concerns I had about making sure that there were first mile, last mile connections there at Northwest Expressway in Portland with the BRT, and again to the library there at Villa, and the station there at 31st and Classen, because that's going to be really important, because otherwise there would have only been 23rd and 36th. And anybody who lived in Central Park neighborhood, Jefferson Park neighborhood, Paseo, Military Park, they would have had all those blocks to get to a station. And now they're going to have, again, a missing middle there. And I just really, really want to thank Jason and Jesse and anybody who helped make that possible. I really, really appreciate you. So thank you.
And I just wanted to say thank you to all the staff and personnel for making the retreat such a wonderful experience. Everything transitioned so smoothly. All the presentations were wonderfully informational, and just wanted to thank everybody for their time and for making that such a great experience.
Yeah, I told Jason that I thought we had the best staff of, any city department, but we're a little prejudiced, so.
They did a great job.
They did, that's right. It took a lot of planning to put that together. All right.
I
so-
try not to make my departments compete amongst themselves, if you know what I
Okay.
mean. It's
Well-
counterproductive.
You might do that, get them competing. All right, so I guess we'll move into executive session.
Any collaboration, not
right, I would have a motion to approve item G. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? I say aye, mine didn't, so motion passes. All right. If there's nothing else, then we're adjourned for this April Fool's Day.